We pray for a deal and we welcome a deal, and we have the ultimate deal maker to make it happen.
Before we hear from U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the conflict involving the United States and Iran is entering one of its most consequential phases. Military operations have intensified in recent weeks, with U.S. officials claiming major strikes against Iranian military infrastructure and leadership. At the same time, diplomatic channels appear to be quietly opening behind the scenes. According to U.S. officials, a framework for a potential peace deal has already been circulated through regional mediators, including the government of Pakistan. That proposal reportedly includes a multi-point plan aimed at ending hostilities while ensuring Iran cannot develop nuclear weapons. But negotiations in wartime are rarely straightforward. What makes this moment especially notable is the strategy being openly described by the administration, pursuing diplomacy while maintaining intense military pressure. Supporters call this approach peace through strength, arguing that military leverage forces adversaries to negotiate seriously. Critics, however, warn that continuing strikes while negotiating could escalate tensions and complicate trust at the negotiating table. As the administration outlines its objectives and strategy, the world is watching closely. The question now isn't just whether military operations are succeeding, it's whether they can ultimately create the conditions for diplomacy.
We pray for a deal and we welcome a deal, and we have the ultimate deal maker to make it happen. But in the meantime, as I said yesterday, the Department of War will continue negotiating with bombs. War is negotiation by other means.
As you directed. Jared and I both agreed that the Iranians were there to buy time until a weaker president arrived. This was a flawed strategy, as your clear direction was to never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon today or any time in the future. Against that backdrop and our compelling military successes in epic fury, we have had multiple reach-outs from the region and others who want to play a role in ending this conflict peacefully. I can report to you today that we have, along with your foreign policy team, presented a 15-point action list that forms the framework for a peace deal. This has been circulated through the Pakistani government, acting as the mediator. And this has resulted in strong and positive messaging in talks, as you just indicated to the press. But these are sensitive diplomatic discussions, and you have directed us to maintain confidentiality on the specific terms and not negotiate through the news media as others do. I can say this: we will see where things lead, and if we can convince Iran that this is the inflection point with no good alternatives for them, other than more death and destruction. We have strong signs that this is a possibility, and if a deal happens, it will be great for the country of Iran, for the entire region, and the world at large. Your policy of peace through strength is the most effective tool for a diplomatic resolution here, just as this policy was an effective tool in each and every one of all of the other conflicts you settled in your first year. Iran is looking for an off-ramp following your powerful threat on Saturday. Your indications that you are willing to listen to peace proposals have been well received. You have instructed us that your preference is always peace, and that we should make that our priority. We have delivered that message, sir, along with the 15 points for peace. Finally, we have told Iran one last thing: don't miscalculate again.
Good. Thank you very much. Good job. Doing a great job. Everybody around this table is doing a great job. Pete Hegseth, please.
Mr. President. I'll start kind of where you left off, Mr. President. Thank you for doing the work of the free world and having the courage to step up and stop the Iranian terror regime from holding the world hostage. That's really what it is. And 27 days ago, Iran had a modern military. Never in recorded history has a nation's military been so quickly and effectively neutralized. Operation Epic Fury is not an endless war. It's a decisive campaign with clear objectives to destroy Iran's offensive military capabilities and ensure they never obtain a nuclear weapon. This is stuff for the history books. This is stuff for legacy. Mr. President, you are acting now to ensure future generations do not have to live under the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. However, you wouldn't know it if you listened to the dishonest hate Trump media, as you referenced. The folks here in the room, these cameras, they have a choice. You're either informing the American people of the truth or you're not. Because I hear it from my people every day. Behind every headline you write, there's a helicopter crew in the air. And behind every news banner you write, there's a battalion on the move. And behind every fake news story, there's an F-35 pilot executing a dangerous mission. My message to the media is get it right. This actually isn't something new to me. I may be a young guy, Mr. President, but I'm not a rookie in this realm. In 2007, I helped lead the surge, the public fight for the Iraq surge. Stood and watched people stand in the Senate and declare the war is lost before it even started. Who was that? It was Harry Reid. That was the Democrats and the media working hand in glove. Back then, it was 3 years into a war. Now we're 3 weeks into an operation. But see, unlike Iraq, this isn't a tie. This is not parity. This is not chaos. This is success, pure American success, on plan, and as the president said, ahead of pace. Over 10,000 enemy targets destroyed, over 140, I think now you're right, Mr. President, over 150 naval vessels sunk, underground facilities destroyed, their defense industrial base in shambles, and overnight, not only do they not have a Navy, Mr. President, they no longer have a Navy commander. IRGC's Navy commander was killed overnight in operation. So no Navy leader. Now that here's the thing about the media, though. If President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that he has taken decisive action, you're asking, well, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, TDS in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better.
At this point in the remarks, the administration is presenting the campaign against Iran as both strategically necessary and historically significant. Officials argue that the operation is designed to rapidly degrade Iran's military capabilities, particularly missile systems, naval forces, and defense infrastructure, while also preventing the country from advancing toward a nuclear weapon. But claims made during wartime often become the subject of intense scrutiny from analysts, historians, and international observers. Governments naturally frame military campaigns in terms of success and momentum, while independent experts often emphasize the longer-term risks that accompany large-scale military operations. Another key theme emerging in these remarks is the role of the media. The administration argues that some coverage has misrepresented the operation or underestimated its success. At the same time, journalists and analysts argue that questioning official claims during wartime is a core responsibility of a free press, particularly when military actions carry global consequences. There's also a broader geopolitical context here. Iran has long maintained that its military and nuclear programs are defensive in nature, while U.S. officials argue those capabilities pose a threat to regional and global security. So here's something worth thinking about as you watch this unfold. When governments communicate during active conflicts, how should audiences balance official statements, independent reporting, and geopolitical context? The remarks we've just heard offer a clear insight into how the current U.S. administration is framing this conflict. According to officials, the objective is not an open-ended war but a targeted campaign aimed at dismantling Iran's offensive military capabilities and preventing nuclear proliferation. At the same time, the administration says it is actively pursuing diplomatic pathways to end the conflict, suggesting that military pressure could create the leverage needed to reach a peace agreement. Historically, many conflicts have involved this dual-track strategy, where negotiations unfold alongside continued military operations. But history also shows that conflicts in the Middle East often evolve in unpredictable ways. Military victories, political messaging, and diplomatic negotiations can shift rapidly depending on events on the ground, regional alliances, and international pressure. For the global community, the stakes are enormous. Any escalation between the United States and Iran has the potential to affect energy markets, regional stability, and international security. So now we turn the question to you. Is negotiating while maintaining military pressure a realistic path toward peace, or does it risk deepening the conflict further? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters in conversations like this. And if you value thoughtful, fact-based breakdowns of major global events, make sure to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of the stories shaping our world.